man finds an orc girl trapped in a tree. When he frees her, something supernatural happens. The Whispering Woods had a reputation, the kind of reputation that kept hunters out, that made mothers pull their children close when someone mentioned the name, that turned grown men around at the forest's edge even when game was scarce and families were hungry. Valen Blackthorn knew the reputation. He'd heard every story, every warning, every tale about the things that lived between those ancient trees. He'd heard them all his entire life. He walked into the forest anyway, not because he was brave. Brave men have options. Valen had a sister with fever that wouldn't break, a healer who needed payment in silver or rare herbs, and a town where the last 3 hunting seasons had been the worst anyone could remember. The Whispering Woods had deer. The Whispering Woods had medicinal plants that grew nowhere else. The Whispering Woods had what he needed. The Whispering Woods also had rules. Don't light fires after dark. Don't follow voices. Don't trust the paths that appear too convenient. Don't take anything that looks like it was left for you. And most importantly, never, ever intervene in orc business. That last rule was the one Valen broke. He'd been tracking a deer for 3 hours when he heard it. Not a voice exactly. More like breathing. The kind of breathing that happens when someone's trying very hard not to make noise, but pain makes silence impossible. Shallow, controlled, desperate. Valen had heard that kind of breathing before. Once when his father was dying. Once when he'd found a wolf with its leg caught in a trap. Once when he'd been 10 years old and fallen from a tree, lying there with broken ribs, trying not to cry, because crying meant moving, and moving meant agony. He should have kept walking. The deer trail led east. The sound came from the north. It wasn't his problem. It wasn't his business. It definitely wasn't worth whatever trouble came from investigating strange sounds in the Whispering Woods. He turned north anyway. The breathing got louder as he pushed through underbrush that hadn't been disturbed in years, maybe decades. The forest here felt older than old. The trees were the kind of massive that made you understand why ancient people had worshipped them. Trunks wider than houses, roots that created rooms in the earth, canopy so thick that noon looked like twilight, and in the center of a clearing that felt somehow sacred, lit by shafts of light that shouldn't exist given how thick the canopy was, stood the oldest tree Valen had ever seen. There was a girl tied to it. No, not a girl. An orc. Valen froze. Every muscle in his body locked up in that primal way that happens when your brain recognizes predator even before conscious thought catches up. Because that's what orcs were. Predators. Enemies. The things that had killed his grandfather, burned his uncle's farm, razed 3 villages in the Northern Territory just 2 summers ago. She hung from thick ropes wrapped around the tree trunk, and her body, arms pulled back, legs barely touching the ground. She'd been there long enough that the ropes had cut into green skin, leaving dark stains on leather armor that had seen better days. Her head hung forward, long black hair covering her face. But she was alive. That breathing, that desperate, controlled breathing, came from her. Valen's hand moved to the knife at his belt. Habit, training, survival instinct. You see an orc, you either run or you fight. Those were the options. Those had always been the options. Then she lifted her head. The look she gave him wasn't what he expected. Not rage. Not the feral aggression every story said to expect from orc kind. What Valen saw in those eyes was something far more dangerous. Hope. Please. Her voice came out as a croak. How long had she been here without water? Please, you human. You understand mercy, yes? The accent was thick. Orcs spoke with sounds that came from deeper in the throat. Words that required more breath. Sentences structured like common was a second language poorly learned. Which it was, Valen supposed. I understand that walking away from tied-up orcs is usually the smart move, Valen said. His voice came out steadier than he felt. Smart, yes. She nodded, wincing at the movement. But you still here? Still listening? That means something, I think. It means I'm an idiot. Perhaps. Was that a smile? Hard to tell with tusks. But kind idiot is better than smart coward. Valen should have left. He'd been raised on stories about orc tricks, orc lies, orc savagery. He'd seen the mass graves from the last border war. He knew what orcs did to prisoners, but he also knew what happened to people left tied up in the Whispering Woods. The forest didn't care about politics or species or ancient grudges. It just slowly, methodically, consumed whatever couldn't escape. Who Who tied you here? He asked. Already a mistake. Questions meant engagement. Engagement meant involvement. Involvement meant trouble. My own clan. She said it simply, like it was a grocery list item. For crime I not commit. And I'm supposed to believe that? No. She looked at him with those unsettling eyes. More aware than orc eyes should be. More intelligent than the propaganda pamphlets back home ever admitted. You supposed to leave, is what smart human do. But you ask question instead of walking away. That tell me something about you. Valen Blackthorn. He hadn't told her his name. How did you? The woods whisper, yes? Why you think they called that? She managed something between a smile and a grimace. Old magic here. Very old. It know things. It show me things. It show me you comin' 3 days ago. 3 days? I been here 7. Clan leave me. Punishment for speaking truth no one want to hear. 3 more days I be dead. Or worse. She nodded toward something at the base of the tree. Valen looked down. Saw the bones. Human bones. Orc bones. Animal bones. All old. All picked clean. All arranged in a pattern that made his skin crawl. This is a judging place, she said quietly. Ancient orc tradition. Tie accused to heartwood tree. If innocent, tree protect. If guilty, forest feed. Simple, yes? Seems like a system with some flaws. Every system have flaws when leaders decide truth before trial start. There was something around her neck. A pendant catching the strange light. Made of wood that looked like stone. Or stone that looked like wood. It was glowing, faintly. Pulsing like a heartbeat. That's not normal, Valen said, pointing at it. No. Heartwood pendant. Made from this tree, long ago. Supposed to glow when innocent blood spilled in false judgment. My grandmother wear it. Her grandmother before that. Now me. She looked at it, then at him. It start glowing moment they tie me here. They see it. They tie me anyway. Because truth, inconvenient. Because I witnessed something I not supposed to see. Because speaking truth easier to punish than acknowledging it. What did you see? That question for after you cut me down. If you cut me down. She met his eyes. I not beg. Not my way. But I tell you this. You walk away now. You spend rest of your life wondering what you chose. You cut me down. Maybe you regret it. Maybe you die for it. But at least you know you chose compassion over fear. Valen stood there, knife in hand, every lesson from childhood screaming at him to run. The pendant kept glowing. Steady. Persistent. True. He'd been taught that orcs were monsters. That they couldn't be trusted. That mercy shown to them was weakness exploited. But he'd also been taught by his father that a person's character showed clearest in moments when no one else was watching. When doing right cost something. When courage meant risking everything for someone who couldn't repay you. His father would have walked away. Survival meant hard choices. His mother would have cut her down. Compassion meant sometimes stupid choices. Valen had always been more like his mother. He stepped forward. The moment his knife touched the first rope, the entire forest went silent. Not quiet. Silent. As if every bird, every insect, every breath of wind suddenly held its breath. As if the world itself paused to watch what happened next. The rope parted, then the next, then the next. She collapsed when the last rope fell, catching herself with hands that shook from 7 days of being bound. She stayed on her knees for a moment, breathing like someone remembering how. Thank you, she said. Just that. No dramatics, no promises. Just simple gratitude delivered in a voice that cracked. Don't thank me yet. Your clan is going to... The pendant flared. Not just glowing anymore, but blazing with light that had no business coming from carved wood. It lifted from her chest, suspended on nothing, rotating slowly. Then it exploded. Not with force, with presence. Light rushed outward in a wave that passed through Valen like ice water and summer sun mixed together. It felt like every nerve in his body remembered it was alive. It felt like waking up from a dream he'd been having his entire life. It felt like the world had just shown him its true face, and that face was beautiful and terrible, and so much bigger than he'd ever imagined. When the light faded, the orc girl was standing. The wounds on her wrists and ankles were healed. The pendant still glowed, but gently now, peacefully, and Valen's left hand was marked. Same symbol as the tree, same pulsing light as the pendant, burned into his skin in lines that looked like wood grain, felt warm as living flesh, and carried weight he didn't understand, but could feel settling into his bones. "What did you do?" His voice barely worked. "I do nothing." She stared at her own hand, marked identically. "Tree do this. Old magic. Very old. Older than orc clans. Older than human kingdoms. From time when world different. When forests held power that make kings kneel. What does it mean?" "It mean..." She looked at him with something like wonder and something like horror. "It mean we bound now. Heartwood bond. Can't be broken. Can't be ignored. What you feel, I feel. Where you go, I sense. If you die..." She touched the mark on her hand. "I die. That's insane." "Yes." She nodded. "Very insane. Also very real. Also very big problem." "Why is it a problem? You're free." "I'm marked, apparently. We go our separate ways." She laughed. It sounded bitter. "You truly know nothing of orc culture, yes? My clan will hunt me. When they find me with human who bear Heartwood mark, they kill us both. Slowly. To send message. Then we don't let them find us." "Oh, sweet human optimism." She shook her head. "They already know. The moment bond formed, every shaman in 100 miles feel it. Magic that old, that strong. It like lighthouse in storm. Everyone see it." As if summoned by her words, a horn sounded in the distance. Deep, rhythmic. The kind of sound that traveled for miles and carried only one message. "Hunt." "That them?" Valen asked. "That them." She looked at the forest around them. "We have maybe 1 hour before they reach this place. Maybe less if Thrak send the scouts ahead." "Thrak?" "Thrak Skullrender, my clan chief, also my father." "Your father tied you to a tree to die?" "Yes." "Because I see him murder his own brother to take chieftain seat. Because I speak truth when he wants silence. In orc culture, strength matter more than blood. He's strong enough to be chief. I weak enough to be sacrificed." She started walking, moving with purpose despite 7 days of captivity. "Now I stronger. Now I have bond with human who's stupid enough to free condemned orc. Now I am problem he cannot ignore." "Wait!" Valen hurried after her. She moved fast for someone who should barely be able to stand. "Where are we going?" "Away from here, toward human settlement called Millhaven. 3 days west." "How do you know where I'm from?" She tapped her temple. "Heartwood bond. I feel your memories like echo. I know your sister's sick. I know you here for medicine. I know you kind but also stubborn. Good traits. Annoying traits. Very human traits. I can feel your..." Valen concentrated. And suddenly he could. Anger. Pain, determination that felt like iron wrapped in leather, a deep, aching love for someone named Gruldan, terror beneath everything else, controlled but constant. "This is violating." "Yes." "Welcome to magical bond you create by being noble idiot." She glanced back at him. "My name's Zuraketh, by the way. Since we going to die together, might as well know who you dying with. I'm not planning on dying." "Good. Me neither, but planning and reality different things, yes?" She kept walking. "Now come. We talk while we move. Every second here is second they get closer." The forest seemed to open before them. Paths that hadn't existed suddenly did. Branches that should block their way bent aside. The whispering woods, apparently, had chosen a side. As they walked, Zuraketh talked about the Heartwood tree, about old magic that predated the war between species, about how the pendant had been passed down through the women of her family for 13 generations, each one chosen by the tree itself to bear truth even when truth was dangerous. "My grandmother died protecting this pendant," Zuraketh said. Her last words to me. "Truth is sharp knife. You cut others with it, yes. But first you must be willing to bleed yourself." I not understand then. "I understand now." "What did you witness?" Valen asked. What truth was worth all this? Zuraketh was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried weight that made him understand why her clan had been desperate to silence her. "I witnessed Thrak meeting with Human Lord. I witnessed them planning next border raid together. I witnessed them dividing spoils before any blood spilled. I witnessed truth that would shame both our peoples, that some leaders profit from endless war, that peace would mean their power fades, that every death in last 5 years could have been prevented if those in power wanted it prevented." Valen stopped walking. "That's impossible." "Which part? That humans and orcs both capable of greed, or that some find peace inconvenient?" She looked at him. "You say you know orcs are monsters, but you cut me down anyway. Why? Because you know what they tell you and what is true, not always same thing. The horn sounded again, closer now. They started running. The next 3 hours became a blur of forest and fear. Zuraketh moved with the efficiency of someone raised in wilderness. She knew which roots would hold weight, which branches would stay silent, which paths would confuse trackers. She knew because this was her forest too, because orc hunters and human hunters learned from the same teacher: survival. There, she pointed to a hollow tree. Inside. Now. They squeezed into the space just as voices filtered through the trees. Orc voices, speaking in their own tongue. Valen couldn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. Hunters discussing prey. Zuraketh's hand found his in the darkness. The marks on their palms pressed together, and suddenly the fear was halved, shared between them, diluted by connection. He could feel her presence in his mind. Not thoughts exactly, but emotions, intentions, the shape of her awareness. Stay quiet, she projected. Not words, but understanding. He understood. The voices passed. They waited another 10 minutes that felt like hours before Zuraketh deemed it safe to move. They hunting wrong direction, she whispered. Vrenna leading them south. She know where I hide usually, but this not usual situation. Vrenna? Vrenna Bloodmark, best tracker in clan. She. Zuraketh's voice caught. She my friend. Once. Before I speak truth that make me traitor. They emerged from the hollow into a forest that had shifted again. The Whispering Woods was on their side, but it was playing a careful game. It helped them, yes, but it did so in ways that made you understand you were tolerated, not welcomed. As they walked, Valen's mind raced. His sister needed medicine. He couldn't return home without it. But he also couldn't return home with an orc who had a mystical bond with him. The town guard would kill her on sight, or try to, and apparently if she died, so did he. I need to gather the herbs, he said. The ones I came here for. Feverwort and moonbane, Zuraketh said. For your sister. I know. I feel your worry for her, she. Zuraketh closed her eyes, accessing memories that weren't hers. Name Lily, 10 years old. Hair like wheat, eyes like summer sky. She likes stories about dragons. Stop reading my mind. Is not reading, is knowing. Bond, show me what matter to you. Like I show you what matter to me. She looked at him. Your sister matter. My brother matter. We both have people we protect. This make us not so different, yes? Your brother, the one who... Valen felt it through the bond. Young. 14. A boy caught between childhood and warrior, trying to prove himself to a father who saw him as disposable as any other tool. He's still in your clan. Yes. The pain in that single word was profound. And when Thrak learn I escape, when he learn I bond with human. He used Gruldan to bring me back. He hurt him until I come, is how he think, is how he always think. Then we can't let him find out. Too late. Zuraketh pointed to the mark on her hand, still glowing faintly. Every orc shaman can sense this. They already know. Thrak already planning. My brother. She stopped walking. The emotion through the bond was overwhelming. Pure terror mixed with fury, mixed with love, so fierce it hurt. I cannot let him hurt Gruldan. I cannot. Then we'll get him out. We? She looked at him like he'd suggested they fly. You meet me 4 hours ago. You owe me nothing. I'm bonded to you. Valen touched the mark on his hand. Apparently that's permanent, which means your problems are my problems. Your family is... He stopped, realized what he'd been about to say. Someone I should care about, I guess. This is stupid plan. Welcome to stupid plans. I'm apparently good at those. A smile flickered across her face. Real this time. You know, for human raised to hate orcs, you adapt quick. My mother always said I was too trusting for my own good. She right. But the smile stayed. They found the feverwort growing near a stream that whispered with voices of its own. The moonbane grew in shadow so complete that harvesting it felt like stealing from darkness itself. Zuraketh helped, moving with practiced ease. She knew these plants, knew this forest. You learn this where? Valen asked as she carefully extracted a moonbane root without damaging the rest of the plant. From my grandmother. She was clan healer before she become pendant keeper. She teach me much before she die. Zuraketh wrapped the root in cloth. She say knowledge is like seed. Plant it deep, water it with practice. Eventually it grow into tree that gives shelter to others. I think she know I would need this knowledge one day. I think she knows speaking truth would make me exile. Do you regret it? Speaking truth? Every day. She said it simply. But I regret silence more. They gathered enough for Lily and then some. Zuriketh insisted on extra, explaining that fever sickness often returned if the medicine stopped too soon. She knew things about healing that would take Valen years to learn. She knew them because survival for her people meant everyone learned multiple skills. You couldn't afford specialists when every member of the clan might need to fight, hunt, heal, or build at any moment. We should move through the night, Zuriketh said as the sun began its descent. Reach edge of forest by dawn, then you go to Millhaven. She didn't finish. What about your brother? I figure out something, always do. That's not a plan. Is best I have. She looked at him. You have sister to save. I not hold you back from that. Bond not mean you sacrifice everything for me. Doesn't it, though? Valen sat on a fallen log. I felt your fear when you thought about your brother. It was... He touched his chest. It was like someone was crushing my ribs. If you go after him alone, if you die trying, that feeling is going to haunt me forever. Not because of the bond, because I'd know I let it happen when I could have helped. You don't know my clan. You don't know how to fight orcs. Then teach me. She stared at him. This is madness. Seems to be my specialty today. For the first time since he'd cut her down, Zuriketh laughed. Really laughed. It sounded rusty, like something that hadn't been used in a long time. My grandmother would like you, I think. She always say best warriors are ones who fight with heart first, head second. You very much heart first person. Is that bad? No. She sat beside him. But it will probably get you killed. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Around them, the whispering woods settled into its evening routine. Birds calling out last positions. Small animals rushing to burrows. The forest breathing in preparation for night. Tell me about your brother, Valen said. Why? Because if we're going to get him out, I should know him. We not... She stopped, looked at him, felt through the bond that he meant it. You serious? Terrifyingly serious, yes. Zuriketh was quiet for a long time. Then, Gul'dan is softer than most orc boys. He collect things, bones, stones, feathers. He give them names. He talk to them. Other warriors mock him for it, call him weak, but he not weak. He just gentle. In culture that worships strength, gentle is dangerous thing to be. Sounds like someone who needs protecting. Yes, and the emotion through the bond was raw. I not there to protect him. For 7 days he think I am dead. For 7 days he alone with father who not love him. I should be there. I should... You were tied to a tree. I know. But knowing not make feelings stop. Valen understood that. The guilt of not being enough. The fear that your absence damaged someone you loved. He felt it with Lily every day. We'll get him, Valen said. Both of them, your brother, my sister. We'll figure it out. How? No idea. He smiled. But I'm getting used to making plans up as I go. She shook her head. You very strange human. You're not exactly typical orc yourself. True. She looked at the pendant around her neck, still glowing faintly in the dimming light. Typical orc not speak truth. Typical orc not get cast out by own father. Typical orc definitely not bond with human. Lucky for me you're not typical. Lucky. She tested the word. Interesting choice. They traveled through the night. Zuriketh led, Valen followed, and the forest made way for them both. The whispering woods had accepted what they were. Something new. Something that broke rules so old they'd calcified into absolute truth. Human and orc. Bonded. Allies. It shouldn't exist. But it did. Dawn found them at the forest's edge, looking out at farmland that stretched toward Millhaven in the distance. The town would be waking soon. Farmers heading to fields, guards changing watch, his sister hopefully still alive. I cannot go there, Zuriketh said quietly. They see me. They kill me. I know. Valen didn't know what to do. He needed to get the medicine to Lily. But leaving Zuriketh felt wrong. Felt impossible, actually, with the bond pulling at him. You go, she decided for him. Save your sister. Then come back here tonight. We plan how to help Gul'dan. Yes? You'll be here? Where else I go? She tried to smile, but it didn't quite work. I wait. You heal. Then we be stupid together. Valen almost left. Almost walked away. But something stopped him. A thought. An idea. Probably a stupid one. What if, he said slowly, what if there was someone in town who could help? Someone who understood old magic? Who? Father Benedict. He's a priest, but not like most priests. He collects stories about the old world, about the time before the wars. Valen remembered conversations with the old man, talks about magic that predated kingdoms. If anyone would know about the Heartwood Bond, it's him. Human priest will not help Orc. He helped me understand the Whispering Woods wasn't just evil. He helped me see that fear and truth aren't always the same thing. Valen met her eyes. Let me try, please. Zoraketh looked at him for a long moment, then at the pendant, then back at him. You have 2 hours, she said. Then I assume you captured or dead, and I go get Gul'dan myself. Fair enough. He was almost to the tree line when her voice stopped him. Valen? He turned. Thank you, for cutting me down, for not running, for... She touched the mark on her hand. For being stupid enough to care. Thank you for trusting me enough to tell the truth. Then he was running. Across fields, still wet with dew. Past farms just starting their day. Through streets he'd walked his entire life that suddenly felt unfamiliar. Everything looked the same. Everything was different. He was different. Father Benedict was awake, as always. The old priest never seemed to sleep, preferring to spend his nights reading by candlelight in the small room behind the chapel. He looked up when Valen burst through the door, and something in his expression said he'd been expecting this. Show me your hand, was all he said. Valen did. The mark glowed faintly in the candlelight. Heartwood Bond, Father Benedict breathed. I thought it was legend, a myth from the old times. He looked at Valen with something like wonder. Who did you save? An Orc girl. Zoraketh. Most men would have recoiled. Father Benedict smiled. Of course you did. Your mother's son through and through. He stood, moving to a shelf packed with books. Tell me everything. Valen did. All of it. The tree, the pendant, the bond, the clan hunting her, the brother who needed saving. As he talked, Benedict pulled books, cross-referenced passages, nodded at certain details. The Heartwood was planted by the first druids, Benedict explained, before humans and orcs were separate peoples, before the wars, before we forgot that all blood is red beneath the skin. He showed Valen a drawing in a book so old the pages crumbled at the edges. The Heartwood Bond was their highest honor. It was given to those who proved themselves capable of loving across all boundaries. It meant you were chosen to heal the world's divisions. That's insane. That's divine, Benedict corrected. There's a difference. She'll die if I die. I'll die if she dies. That's a curse, not a blessing. Every blessing is a curse if you look at it wrong. Benedict closed the book. But this bond also means you'll never be alone. You'll always have someone who understands you completely. You'll always know true loyalty. That's rare, Valen. That's precious. Her clan is hunting her. Her father wants her dead. And there's a brother who's essentially hostage. Then you rescue the brother. Benedict said it like it was obvious. It's an orc clan. I'm one human. You're one human bonded to an orc who knows every detail of that clan's defenses. You're one human who has the Whispering Woods on his side. You're one human who just performed a miracle that hasn't been seen in 300 years. Benedict's eyes were fierce. Don't diminish what you are by focusing on what you lack. I need to get medicine to my sister. I'll take it to her. I'll tell her you're on a journey. She'll understand. Benedict pulled a satchel from beneath his desk. Started packing. You have larger concerns now. Lily is my concern. And she'll die of fever or live with the medicine I give her. Either way, it happens whether you're there or not. Benedict's voice was gentle but firm. But that orc girl and her brother? They live or die based on what you do next. That's your choice now. Valen wanted to argue. Wanted to be selfish. Wanted to just save his sister and walk away from all of this. But the mark on his hand pulsed with warmth. And through the bond, he felt Zoraketh waiting, hoping, trying not to hope, but unable to stop herself. If I do this, Valen said slowly, if I help her, what happens after? We save her brother. Then what? We can't live here. Can't live with her clan. We're bonded but have nowhere to go. Then you make a place where you can be. Benedict handed him the satchel. The world is larger than this town, Valen, and it needs people who prove that different doesn't have to mean enemy. He smiled. Now go. You have a very impatient orc waiting for you. How did you... I'm a priest, we know things. He pushed Valen toward the door. And Valen, when you see your sister next, Tell her the dragon she dreamed about is real. Tell her you met it. Tell her it had green skin and tusks and chose to trust a stranger. She'll understand. Valen ran back through the town, past guards who didn't stop him because he was just Valen, familiar and harmless, past neighbors who waved because that's what people did, past everything familiar toward everything unknown. Zuraketh was exactly where he'd left her. She looked relieved when she saw him, felt relieved through the bond, but also nervous. "Your priest?" she asked. "Says we're chosen to heal the world's divisions." Heavy responsibility. Terrifying responsibility. Valen sat beside her. "But first we rescue your brother. How do we do that?" For the first time since he'd met her, Zuraketh looked genuinely hopeful. "You serious? You really help? I've apparently been chosen by ancient magic to love across boundaries. Seems like I should start practicing." She laughed, then cried, then laughed again. "This is stupid plan." "Welcome to stupid plans. They're my specialty, remember?" They spent the next hour strategizing. Zuraketh drew maps in the dirt, explaining clan structure. The camp was 3 days north. Security was tight but predictable. Gul'dan would be watched but not imprisoned. Thrak needed him alive as bait. The trick was getting in without being seen. "The scouts patrol in patterns," Zuraketh explained. "Vrenna's patterns. I know them because I train with her. We slip between rotations, we get to camp. We find Gul'dan, we leave. That simple? That impossible?" She looked at him. "But we try anyway, yes?" "We try anyway." They moved through the forest, heading north. The journey took 3 days, just as predicted. 3 days of learning each other's rhythms. 3 days of Zuraketh teaching him to move quietly, to read signs, to understand the language of the wilderness. 3 days of him teaching her common phrases that didn't sound quite right coming from an orc tongue, laughing when she got frustrated with the softer sounds. "Humans talk like they afraid words will bite them," she complained after trying to properly pronounce breathe for the 10th time. "Orcs talk like they're trying to intimidate the alphabet," he shot back. She threw a pine cone at him. By the 3rd day, something had shifted. The bond felt less like an intrusion and more like companionship. He could sense her presence as naturally as his own heartbeat. She read his mood before he spoke. They were becoming something new, something that had no name in either of their languages. The orc camp came into view at dusk on the 3rd day. Massive tents made from hides and woven grass. Fire pits that could roast entire deer. Training grounds where young warriors practiced with weapons that looked brutal and somehow elegant at the same time. And in the center, the chieftain's tent, larger than the others, decorated with trophies from battles. Outside, it stood a boy who looked too small to be a warrior, but was clearly trying to be one anyway. Gul'dan. Zuraketh's breath caught. "He alive? He okay?" "For now," Valen agreed. "How do we get to him?" "Wait for night. Scouts change at midnight. We have maybe 10 minutes between rotations. We go in, grab him, go out." She looked at Valen. "And if we caught, you run. Bond or no bond, you run. Not a chance. Valen, we succeed together or fail together. That's how bonds work, right?" She looked like she wanted to argue. Felt like she wanted to argue through the bond. But she also felt grateful. Loved even. Not romantic love. Something deeper. Chosen family love. The kind that said, "I see you and you're worth fighting for." "You very stubborn human," she said finally. "You're pretty stubborn yourself. Is orc way. Apparently it's our way now." They waited. The sun set. The camp settled into evening routines. Songs around fires. Stories told in rough voices. Laughter that sounded too human to come from creatures he'd been taught were monsters. Midnight came. The scouts rotated. Vrenna's team moved east. The replacement team moved west. For exactly 9 minutes and 43 seconds, there was a gap in the coverage. They moved. Zuraketh led, slipping between tents like shadow through shadow. Valen followed, heart hammering, hand on the knife he hoped he wouldn't need. The camp was quiet but not silent. Snoring from some tents. Murmured conversations from others. The crackle of dying fires. They reached the chieftain's tent. Gul'dan was outside, sitting on a stool, carving something from wood. A guard stood nearby, half asleep. Zuraketh made a sound. Soft. Like a bird call, but not quite. Gul'dan's head snapped up. His eyes went wide. For a terrifying second, Valen thought he'd shout. Then recognition hit. Then joy so pure it hurt to witness. Gul'dan stood, moved toward them. The guard stirred. Zuraketh grabbed her brother, covered his mouth, and dragged him into the shadows between tents. Valen followed, expecting shouts, expecting alarms, expecting everything to go wrong. Nothing went wrong. Not yet. You alive? Gul'dan whispered. I see pendant glow. I know you alive. But father say you dead. He lie? He lie, Zuraketh confirmed, holding her brother tight. I live. I escape. And now we leave. Now we... A horn blared. The sound of every warrior's nightmare. The sound that meant attack, danger, run. They'd been spotted. The camp exploded into motion. Warriors pouring from tents, weapons drawn. Vrenna's voice shouting commands. And above it all, a roar that could only be Thrak's skullrender demanding his daughter's head. Run! Zuraketh ordered. They ran, through the camp, between tents that suddenly seemed like a maze designed to trap them, past warriors who were just waking up, confused, reaching for weapons. The forest was ahead. If they could reach the trees, they had a chance. Vrenna appeared in their path. She looked at Zuraketh, looked at Gul'dan, looked at Valen. Go, she said quietly. I not see you. Then she turned and pointed the wrong direction, shouting that she'd spotted them heading east. They went west. The forest swallowed them. The whispering woods, recognizing what they were, opened paths that closed behind them. They ran until lungs burned and legs screamed. They ran until Gul'dan stumbled and Valen had to carry him. They ran until the sounds of pursuit faded into just the rush of their own blood. They stopped in a clearing, collapsed, breathed like they'd never breathed before. We did it, Valen gasped. We actually... An axe buried itself in the tree beside his head. Thrak's skullrender stepped into the clearing, alone, massive. He made other orcs look small. He looked at Zuraketh with eyes that held no love, no recognition, nothing but cold calculation. Daughter. The word carried no affection. You make this difficult. I make it. Zuraketh stood, putting herself between Thrak and Gul'dan. You murder your own brother. You tie me to Heartwood Tree. I do what is necessary. Thrak's voice was flat. You understand nothing of leadership, of hard choices, of strength required to hold clan together. I understand you profit from war. I understand you meet with human lords to plan battles that benefit you both. I understand you sacrifice our people for your power. Our people? Thrak laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding. You bond with human. You no longer are people. He moved. Fast. Too fast for something his size. The axe swung toward Zuraketh. Valen moved faster. He didn't plan it. Didn't think. The bond made him move. The need to protect someone he'd somehow come to care about more than his own safety. The axe meant for Zuraketh caught Valen instead, across the chest. Not deep enough to kill immediately. Deep enough to matter. Pain exploded. The world tilted. And through the bond, he felt Zuraketh feel what he felt. Felt her scream without sound. Thrak looked at him with something like respect. Brave. Foolish, but brave. He raised the axe again. The heartwood pendant exploded with light. Not figuratively, literally. It tore away from Zuraketh's neck, grew to the size of a shield, and blocked Thrak's next strike. The axe shattered against wood that had survived centuries and had no intention of breaking now. The pendant spoke, not in words exactly, in knowing. In truth, that couldn't be denied. It showed Thrak's crimes, showed them to everyone, to Gul'dan, to Valen, to the warriors who had followed Thrak into the forest and now stood at the clearing's edge, watching. It showed the murdered brother, showed the meetings with human lords, showed every lie, every betrayal, every life sacrificed for power. Thrak backed away. This is not... I did what was necessary. You did what was convenient, Zuraketh said. Blood ran from her nose. The bond meant she felt Valen's wound as if it were her own. And now everyone see. Now everyone know. Truth is sharp knife, father. And now it cut you. The warriors at the clearing's edge looked at each other. Looked at Thrak. Some left. Others stayed, but their loyalty had visibly cracked. Vrenna stepped forward. She looked at Thrak with something between disgust and pity. Challenge, she said simply. I challenge for chieftain seat. It was over quickly. Thrak fought. Thrak lost. Not because he wasn't strong. Because he'd forgotten that strength without honor was just violence. and violence eventually met something stronger. Vrenna stood over him. You live in exile. You leave. You not return. Thrak looked at Zuraketh one last time. For a moment, Valen thought he saw regret. Then it was gone. You make mistake, Thrak said. Bond with human. It make you weak. No. Zuraketh held Valen up, their marks glowing in tandem. It make me stronger, because now I know true strength not come from fighting alone, come from choosing who we fight beside. Thrak left, walking into the forest, becoming smaller, disappearing into shadow and shame. Vrenna looked at Zuraketh. You not return either. Bond make you outcast. But she pulled something from her belt. A token. Carved stone in the shape of a hand. This is mark of ally. Any orc see this, they give you safe passage. Not welcome, but not enemy. Is best I can do. Is enough, Zuraketh said. Thank you. They carried Valen back to Millhaven. It took 5 days. 5 days of Zuraketh learning human healing from Father Benedict. 5 days of the town learning that the orc girl who'd saved one of their own wasn't quite the monster they'd been taught to fear. 5 days of slow, painful recovery. Valen lived. The bond made sure of that. Zuraketh's strength flowing into him, keeping him alive when he should have died. Lily recovered too. The medicine worked. She'd live. 3 months later, they stood at the edge of the Whispering Woods. Valen, Zuraketh, Gul'dan, and a small group of humans who'd decided that maybe, just maybe, the old ways weren't the only ways. This is stupid plan, Zuraketh said. They'd said it to each other so many times it had become their catchphrase. Welcome to stupid plans, Valen replied. They're our specialty. They were building something new, a settlement. Half human, half orc. A place where the Heartwood bond wasn't an aberration but a beginning. Where children could grow up knowing that different didn't automatically mean enemy. It wouldn't be easy. Change never was. Some humans would hate them. Some orcs would hate them. They'd face opposition from both sides. But they had each other. They had the bond. They had proof that bridges could be built across divides that seemed uncrossable. Valen looked at his hand. The mark had stopped glowing constantly, but it still pulsed sometimes. Especially when Zuraketh was near, which was almost always. You ever regret it? He asked. That day I cut you down? Zuraketh thought about it. Every day, she said honestly. Life was simpler before. Harder, yes, but simpler. But simple not always better. She looked at him. You give me choice. You give me chance. You give me reason to believe that world can be better than world we were born into. I not regret that. I not ever regret that. Gul'dan ran past them, chasing a human boy his age. Both of them laughing. Both of them just boys. Not orc or human. Just boys. My grandmother say something once, Zuraketh continued. She say, change is like fire. It hurt when it burn. But after burning, new things can grow. I think we burn a lot. But look what grow. She was right. The settlement was small, but it was growing. 3 families now, planning to be 7 by spring. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Valen touched the mark on his hand, then touched Zuraketh's. The marks glowed in response, gentle and warm. In the end, he said quietly, the world didn't need perfect heroes. It needed broken people willing to fix each other. Zuraketh finished. She'd heard him say it before, had adopted it as truth. They stood together, watching the settlement take shape, watching humans and orcs work side by side, awkward still but trying, learning each other's languages, sharing each other's food, building something that had no precedent. The Whispering Woods whispered behind them, approving maybe, or just watching. Either way, it had given them its blessing by giving them each other. Valen looked at this orc he'd freed on impulse. This person he'd been bonded to by ancient magic. This friend, no, this family, who'd changed everything about how he saw the world. Thank you, he said, for trusting me when I cut you down. Thank you, she replied, for being stupid enough to try. They smiled. Human and orc, bound by choice, bound by magic, bound by the simple truth that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to hate someone you're supposed to hate. The sun set over their settlement. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, they had peace. They had each other. They had proof that the world could change if someone was brave enough, or stupid enough, to take the first step. Some victories aren't won on battlefields. They're won in quiet moments when someone chooses compassion over fear, when someone cuts down a prisoner they're supposed to ignore, when someone decides that ancient feuds don't have to be eternal. Blood makes you orc or human, but loyalty, courage, and love, those make you family. And family in the end was all that truly mattered.